The Cretan Council had convened at dawn, their silver robes catching the first light of the twin suns. Elder Vorath stood at the center of the ceremonial chamber, his crystalline eyes reflecting centuries of tradition. Today, they would crown Tharn as the new alpha of the northern Denna position that had remained vacant since the Great Silence had taken the previous leader. Tharn was everything an alpha should be, massive, with obsidian fur that rippled like liquid night, claws that could rend steel, and a roar that echoed across the canyon valleys. He had proven himself in combat, in strategy, in every trial the Council had designed. The Crescens, a species of leonine warriors who had dominated 3 star systems, needed strength. They needed tradition. They needed Tharn. What they didn't expect was Lyra. She had arrived on their world 6 lunar cycles ago. A human researcher from the Terran Diplomatic Corps, small by Crescen standards barely, reaching the shoulder of their youngest warriors with skin the color of summer sand and hair that fell in dark waves. The Council had permitted her presence to study their denning practices, nothing more. She was harmless, they thought, insignificant. The cubs thought differently. The coronation ceremony began with the ritual words spoken in the old tongue that predated space travel. Tharn knelt before the Council, his head bowed. As Elder Vorath raised the crown of ancestors, a circlet forged from the bones of the first Alpha, studded with gems from conquered worlds. "By the authority vested in us by blood and fire," Vorath intoned, "we name you Alpha. The cubs shall bow. The pack shall follow." So it has always been. The massive doors to the denning chambers opened, and 300 cubs poured into the ceremonial space. This was the moment of acceptance, when the young would prostrate themselves before their new leader, cementing his authority through their submission. It was instinct, it was biology, it was law. Not a single cub bowed to Tharn. Instead, they turned as one toward the observation platform where Lyra stood, her tablet forgotten in her hands. 300 pairs of golden eyes fixed upon her, and then, like a wave crashing against stone, they dropped to their bellies. Their heads touched the ground, their tails curled in submission. The chamber fell into shocked silence. "What is this?" Tharn's voice was a thunderous growl. "I am your Alpha. I am chosen." But the cubs remained prostrate, facing the human girl who stood frozen, her brown eyes wide with confusion. Elder Vorath's composure cracked. "This is impossible. The cubs respond to strength, to dominance. They respond to one of their own." Perhaps," came a quiet voice from the shadows. "They respond to something else entirely." Matron Cess stepped forward, the oldest of the Council, her white fur bearing the scars of a dozen wars. Unlike the others, she didn't look angry. She looked curious. "Lyra of Terra," Cess called out. "Come down here." Lyra descended the platform on shaking legs, very aware that she was walking into a chamber full of confused, potentially hostile adult Crescens. But as she passed the cubs, each one she walked by began to purr a sound of contentment, of safety, of home. "What have you done to our young?" Vorath demanded. "Nothing!" Lyra protested. "I've just been studying them, observing, taking notes." "Show me your notes," Cess commanded. With trembling hands, Lyra pulled up her research logs. Cess scanned them, her eyes moving faster than Lyra thought possible. Then the matron did something unexpected. She laughed, a deep rumbling sound that shook dust from the ancient rafters. "Of course," Cess said. "Of course they chose her. Explain yourself," Tharn snarled. Cess turned to face the Council. "For 6 cycles, this human has done what none of us have done in generations. She has spent every waking moment in the dens, not commanding. Not training, not demanding strength." The matron's eyes gleamed. "She has been listening." She pulled up one of Lyra's entries, projecting it for all to see. "Cub 47 cried for 3 hours today. The adults ignored it, apparently normal behavior to encourage independence. I sat with it. It stopped crying. It slept." Another entry. "The cubs are being fed nutrition paste, optimal for growth, but they don't eat it eagerly. I noticed they watch the adults hunt. They want to learn, not just be fed." And another, "Cub 203 kept trying to climb the wall but falling. Every adult who passed told it to try harder or give up. I showed it a different path, using smaller holds. It succeeded. It's been teaching the others." Cess closed the projection. She has done what we forgot in our pursuit of strength. She has shown them patience, understanding. She has seen them not as future warriors, but as children who need guidance. This is weakness, Tharn roared. Is it? Sess challenged. Tell me, mighty Tharn, how many cubs have survived to adulthood in the last generation? Silence. 62%, Sess answered her own question. Do you know the survival rate before we became warriors first and parents second? Before we decided strength was the only virtue? 98%. She turned to Lyra. Humans are soft, we said. Weak. They have no claws, no fangs, no natural armor. They should have been prey, yet they dominate their world. Why? Lyra found her voice, though it shook. Because we protect our young. Because we adapt. Because we understand that strength isn't just physical, it's emotional, intellectual, social. Precisely, Sess looked at the council. The cubs bow to her because their instincts recognize what we have forgotten. An alpha doesn't just lead in battle. An alpha ensures the survival of the pack. And survival requires more than claws. Vorath stepped forward, his voice dangerous. Are you suggesting we name a human as Alpha? I'm suggesting, Sess replied calmly, that we listen to what the cubs are telling us. They haven't chosen her as Alpha. They've chosen her as Mother. The word hung in the air like a physical thing. Tharn could be Alpha, Sess explained. He could lead in war, in strategy, in strength. But Lyra Small, weak, human Lyra, would be Mother of the Den. She would guide the young. Teach them. Help them grow into warriors who were also people. It was unprecedented. It violated every tradition. It was also watching 300 cubs still prostrated before this tiny human who had simply shown them kindness, undeniable. Elder Vorath looked at Tharn, then at Lyra, then at the cubs. Slowly, deliberately, he made his decision. The council recognizes two authorities this day, he announced. Tharn, Alpha of Strength. Lyra of Terra, Mother of the Den, together they shall lead. Tharn's eyes blazed with barely contained fury, but he was wise enough to recognize defeat. He bowed his head in acceptance. Lyra, still processing everything, looked down at the nearest cub. It gazed up at her with complete trust, and she felt the weight of 300 lives settling onto her shoulders. I don't know your traditions, she said softly. I don't know your ways. Then teach us yours, Sess replied. And perhaps together we'll find something better. As the ceremony concluded and the cubs finally rose, swarming around Lyra with purrs and playful pounces, the council watched something they hadn't seen in decades. Their young, truly happy. The human girl smiled, buried in fur and claws and unconditional trust. And the Crescent Empire learned a lesson that would echo across the stars. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is simply care, retry.